The house is dark when I step inside, and it feels like a weight pressing down on me. After the long flight and an even longer week of meetings, all I want is to collapse into bed next to Laura, maybe feel the warmth of her body against mine. I drop my suitcase by the door, the sound echoing in the silence. Something's off, though. The usual hum of life, the little noises that make a house feel like a home, are missing. My pulse quickens as I glance around. "Laura," I call out, but my voice is swallowed by the darkness. No answer. The air feels thick, like I'm walking through syrup. I take a step forward, my eyes straining to see in the dim light. I notice her heels by the front door. She must be home. My thoughts race, searching for an explanation. Maybe she's asleep or in the shower. I force myself to relax, telling myself not to jump to conclusions. I push open the door to the living room, and the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The place is too quiet, too still. My senses are on high alert. My eyes scan the room, and just as I'm about to call her name again, something hard smashes into the back of my head. Pain explodes through my skull, and everything goes black. When I come to, I'm groggy, disoriented. My hands are bound behind me, and I'm sitting in a chair. The first thing I notice is the rough rope cutting into my wrists. The second is the sound, laughter, low and intimate. I blink, trying to clear my vision. When it does, I wish it hadn't. Laura is on the couch, her back arched, her head thrown back in a way that makes my stomach churn. She's not alone. There are two men with her, one behind, the other in front. The scene is raw, animalistic, and it feels like a knife twisting in my gut. My mind struggles to process what I'm seeing. This isn't real. It can't be. "What the hell?" I manage to choke out, my voice cracking with disbelief. One of the men looks over his shoulder at me, a grin spreading across his face. He's tall, muscular, with a coldness in his eyes that sends a chill down my spine. He steps away from Laura, who barely seems to notice, and walks over to me. The smile never leaves his face. "Welcome back," he says, his voice dripping with mockery. "You're going to help us with something, or things are going to get very unpleasant for you." I spit at him, a mix of rage and desperation bubbling up. "Go to hell, you bastard," I snarl. He wipes his face, his expression turning from amused to menacing. "You're not in a position to negotiate," he hisses, leaning in close. "You do what we say, or you'll wish you never came home." I stare at him, my mind racing. I've walked into a nightmare, and I have no idea how to get out of it. "You're going to help us with something," the man says, his voice low and dangerous. His words cut through the fog in my head like a blade. My wrists are burning from the tight ropes, but the pain is nothing compared to the sickening realization of what's happening in front of me. Laura is still on the couch, her skin glistening under the dim light, oblivious to the horror playing out on the other side of the room. "What the hell do you want from me?" I snap, my voice rough, laced with anger and desperation. I can't take my eyes off her, can't understand how this could be happening. She was supposed to be my wife, my partner. Now she's here, tangled with these men, and I'm the one tied to a chair. The man leans in closer, his breath hot against my face. "You're going to use that fancy financial mind of yours to help us move some money. We need someone who knows how to make it look clean." I grit my teeth, the anger boiling inside me. "And if I refuse?" He smiles, a cold, calculating smile. "Then we'll start having some fun. And trust me, you don't want to know what that looks like." His eyes flicker over to Laura, who is now looking at me with a strange mix of guilt and indifference. The sight of her like this makes my stomach churn. I swallow hard, trying to push down the bile rising in my throat. "I'm not a criminal," I say, my voice trembling. "I'm not going to help you." The man's grin widens and he shakes his head. "You don't have a choice, my friend. If you want to keep breathing, you'll do exactly what we say. Otherwise, we'll make sure you disappear without a trace. And trust me, we've done it before." Fear creeps in, winding its way around my heart. But I force myself to stay calm, to think. I can't let them see how terrified I am. I need time. Need to figure out who these guys are, what they want. All right, I finally say, my voice barely above a whisper. I'll do it. Just, just let me talk to Laura. The man nods, seemingly satisfied with my answer, and gestures for one of the other guys to cut the ropes. My wrists throb as the bindings are loosened, but I don't care. I need to get to Laura, to understand what the hell is going on. I stumble to my feet, my legs shaky, and make my way over to her. She looks up at me, her eyes wide and filled with something I can't quite read. Fear, regret. I want to shake her, to demand answers, but I can't. Not now. Not with these bastards watching our every move. Laura, I say, my voice soft, trying to mask the fury bubbling just beneath the surface. Why are you doing this? She doesn't respond right away, just looks down at the floor, her hands trembling slightly. Finally, she speaks, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry, but I didn't have a choice. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. What do you mean you didn't have a choice? You had a choice, Laura. You chose them over me. Tears well up in her eyes, but she quickly wipes them away, her expression hardening. You don't understand, okay? This is bigger than you, bigger than us. I shake my head, unable to comprehend what she's saying. Bigger than us? Laura, we're married. How could you do this to me? She flinches at my words, but before she can respond, the man steps between us, cutting off our conversation. Enough, he says, his tone final. You can have your little reunion later. Right now, we've got work to do. He grabs my arm, pulling me away from Laura, and drags me toward the door. My mind races, trying to come up with a plan, a way out of this nightmare. But every option seems to end the same way, with me dead and Laura still tangled up with these monsters. They shove me into a car, and we drive through the city, the streets blurred by the rain pouring down the windows. I try to memorize the route, the turns, anything that might help me later, but it's impossible to focus. My thoughts keep drifting back to Laura, to the way she looked at me, like I was the one betraying her. Eventually, we pull up to a nondescript building in a rundown part of town. They force me out of the car and into the building, leading me down a dark hallway to a small office. The man who's been doing all the talking, who I now know as Greg, pushes me into a chair and sits down across from me. Here's how this is going to work, Greg says, his voice calm and authoritative. We've got a few million that needs to be moved. Offshore accounts, shell companies, the whole 9 yards. You're going to make it happen, make it look clean, and make sure it's untraceable. Got it? I nod, not trusting myself to speak. My mind is spinning with the implications of what he's asking me to do. This isn't just some small-time operation. They're talking about serious money, serious crimes. And they want me to be the one to make it all happen. But I have no choice. I'm not just fighting for my life. I'm fighting for Laura's too, even if she doesn't seem to care. Greg slides a laptop across the desk towards me. You've got until the end of the week. Make it happen, or we'll make you disappear. I take the laptop, my hands shaking slightly as I open it. The screen flickers to life, and I'm greeted with a series of offshore accounts, each more complicated than the last. They've done their homework, that's for sure, but they're still underestimating me. They think I'm just some scared husband who'll do whatever they say. They're wrong. I start working, my fingers flying across the keyboard as I begin to set up the transfers. But as I do, I'm already planning my next move. I need to figure out who these guys are, how they got their hooks into Laura, and more importantly, how I can get us out of this mess. I keep my head down, focusing on the task at hand, but my mind is racing. I need to contact someone who can help me, but I can't risk using my phone. They'll be monitoring everything. I'll have to find another way, some way to get a message out without them knowing. Hours pass, and I'm still working, my body running on adrenaline and fear. Greg watches me from across the room, his eyes never leaving me. I can feel the weight of his gaze, the unspoken threat hanging in the air. Finally, I finish the initial setup, transferring the first wave of funds into a series of offshore accounts. I lean back in the chair, my head pounding from the strain. It's done, I say, my voice hoarse. Greg nods, looking satisfied. Good. Now keep going. We've got more to do. I don't argue, just turn back to the laptop and keep working. But every moment I spend doing their dirty work, the more determined I become to bring them down. As the hours drag on, my mind keeps circling back to Laura. I need to talk to her, to understand why she's doing this, why she's with these men. But more importantly, I need to figure out if she's a victim in all of this, or if she's been playing me from the start. Greg finally lets me stop for the night, leading me to a small, windowless room in the back of the building. It's barely more than a closet, with a single cot and a dingy light bulb hanging from the ceiling. But I don't care. I collapse onto the cot, exhaustion finally overtaking me. As I lie there staring up at the ceiling, I can't stop the images from flashing through my mind. Laura with those men, the coldness in her eyes, the way she seemed so distant, so far removed from the woman I thought I knew. Sleep comes eventually, but it's restless, filled with nightmares of what's to come. I'm in too deep now, and there's no turning back. The next morning, Greg is waiting for me outside the room, his expression unreadable. Time to get back to work, he says, his voice gruff. I nod, forcing myself to stand. I don't have a choice. Not yet. As I follow him back to the office, I make a silent promise to myself. I'm going to find out the truth, no matter what it takes. And when I do, I'm going to make them pay for everything they've done. But first, I need to survive long enough to make that happen. Greg's footsteps echo in the hallway as he leads me back to the office. My mind is spinning with thoughts of Laura, her words, her actions. They're all a jumbled mess in my head, impossible to untangle. I don't know if I can trust her, if I should even try to save her, but I can't leave her with these monsters. Not yet. The laptop is still on the desk waiting for me. Greg nods toward it, and I sit down, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I start working, running through the steps to clean the money and move it through the offshore accounts. My body moves on autopilot, following the routine I've perfected over years in finance. But my mind is somewhere else, plotting, scheming. I need to find a way out of this, but I can't do it alone. I make a decision. I'll reach out to Tom, an old friend from college who now works in law enforcement. He's the only one I trust, the only one who might be able to help me without tipping off these guys. But I have to be careful. If Greg or his goons catch wind of what I'm doing, it's over. Greg leaves me alone for a few minutes, probably to check on whatever else they're cooking up. It's just enough time. I open a new tab on the laptop, making sure to keep the main screen focused on the transfers. Quickly, I type out a message to Tom using a code we came up with back in our younger days. Something simple but effective. I pray he'll understand. Need help. Urgent. Follow the breadcrumbs. I hit send and close the tab, my heart pounding. It's a risk, but it's the only one I can take right now. I turn back to the financial work, my eyes scanning the data, but my thoughts are on what comes next. I need to play this right, stay one step ahead, and buy myself enough time to figure out who these bastards are. Greg returns, his eyes narrowing as he watches me work. You're quiet, he says, a hint of suspicion in his voice. I force a smile, trying to act casual. Just focused. This isn't exactly easy work. He grunts, seemingly satisfied, and leans against the desk, his arms crossed. Good. Keep it that way. I keep typing, my mind spinning in 1,000 directions. I can't stay passive. I need to take action. But first, I need more information. Who are these men? What's their connection to Laura? And why are they so desperate for my help? The hours drag on, the tension in the room thickening with every passing minute. Laura hasn't shown up since I was brought here, and I can't decide if that's a good or bad sign. I can't stop thinking about her, about the way she looked at me with a mix of guilt and something else. Something I can't quite place. Fear? Regret? I don't know, but it gnaws at me, makes it impossible to concentrate fully on the task at hand. Finally, Greg nods toward the door. Break time, he says, and I don't argue. I need a moment to clear my head. I step out into the hallway, the air cooler here, less suffocating than in that tiny office. I pace back and forth, trying to think, trying to piece together the fragments of information I have. It's not much, but it's something. I know they're involved in something big, something dangerous, and they need me to clean their money to cover their tracks. But what I don't know is why Laura's mixed up in all of this. Is she a victim, or has she been working with them all along? The thought makes my stomach churn. I can't believe she would do this to me, that she would betray me like this. But the evidence is right in front of me. I saw her with those men, heard the way they spoke to her, the familiarity in their voices. She's not an innocent bystander in all of this. She's a part of it, whether she wants to be or not. As I pace, I hear voices coming from down the hallway, and I freeze. Greg and one of the other men are talking, their voices low but urgent. I move closer, careful to stay out of sight, straining to hear what they're saying. "He's doing what we need, but I don't trust him," Greg says, his tone sharp. "He's too quiet, too focused. We need to keep an eye on him." The other man grunts in agreement. "What about the wife?" "She's getting nervous. We can't have her screwing this up." Greg sighs. "I'll deal with her. She's not going to do anything stupid. Not if she knows what's good for her." I clench my fists, anger and frustration boiling inside me. They're manipulating her, threatening her. But what does that mean? Is she a willing participant, or is she being forced into this just like I am? I don't have time to figure it out now. I need to stay focused, need to find a way to turn this situation around before it's too late. But the more I think about it, the more impossible it seems. These guys are professionals. They know what they're doing, and they're watching my every move. I step back, moving away from the door, just as Greg and the other man finish their conversation. I don't want to give them any reason to suspect that I overheard them. I make my way back to the office, my mind racing with possibilities, with plans that might work if I can just find the right angle. When I sit back down at the laptop, I notice something strange. One of the offshore accounts I've been working on has a series of transactions that don't make sense. They're small, barely noticeable among the larger sums, but they're consistent, like someone's skimming off the top. I double-check the numbers, my heart pounding in my chest. This could be it. My way in, my way out. But I can't move too quickly. If I do, they'll notice, and it'll be over before I even get started. I need to play this smart. Need to make sure that I can trace the money back to its source without tipping off Greg or the others. I spend the next few hours carefully working through the transactions, making sure that everything looks normal on the surface. But underneath, I'm setting up a trail, a way to trace the money back to whoever's behind this. If I can get that information, I'll have leverage, something I can use to turn the tables. Finally, I finish for the night. Greg is hovering over me, watching my every move, but he doesn't say anything. He just nods toward the door, and I follow him back to the small room where I've been sleeping. The cot is uncomfortable, the air stale, but I don't care. I'm too tired to think, too drained to plan anymore tonight. I collapse onto the cot, my mind racing even as my body demands rest. I can't stop thinking about Laura, about what she might be going through, what she might be feeling. Is she scared? Is she angry? Does she blame me for all of this? I don't know. I don't have any answers, just a million questions that keep me awake, staring at the ceiling, until finally exhaustion takes over and I drift off into a restless sleep. The next morning, I wake up with a plan. It's risky, maybe even suicidal, but it's the only shot I've got. I'm going to finish setting up the transfers, make sure the money is clean and untraceable, but at the same time, I'm going to keep digging. Keep tracing those small transactions until I can find out who's behind all of this. Then I'm going to use that information to take them down. I just need to stay alive long enough to make it happen. Greg is waiting for me outside the door, his expression unreadable. He nods toward the office, and I follow him inside, my heart pounding in my chest. I'm walking a tightrope, and one wrong step will send me plummeting into the abyss. But I don't have a choice. I have to keep moving forward, have to keep playing their game until I can turn the tables. I sit down at the laptop, my fingers trembling slightly as I start working again. I'm careful, methodical, making sure that everything looks perfect on the surface. But underneath, I'm building my case, setting up a trail that will lead me to the truth. Hours pass, the tension in the room growing thicker with every minute. Greg is watching me, his eyes narrowing every time I pause. Every time I hesitate, I can feel the pressure mounting, feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on me. But I don't crack. I can't afford to. Finally, I finish the last of the transfers. The money is clean, the trail covered. But I've also finished my own work, tracing the transactions back to a series of shell companies that lead to one name. A name I've heard before, a name that sends a chill down my spine. I close the laptop, my heart racing. I have what I need. Now I just need to figure out how to use it. Greg notices the change in me, the way my body tenses, the way my eyes dart toward the door. "What's going on?" he asks, suspicion creeping into his voice. I force a smile, trying to play it cool. "Nothing. Just finished up." Everything's set. He doesn't look convinced, but he nods, his eyes narrowing as he watches me stand up. "Good. Now you're going to stay put until we finish this. Don't try anything stupid." I nod, trying to keep my expression neutral, but inside my mind is racing. I need to get out of here. Need to get this information to Tom before it's too late. But I can't just walk out the door. They'll be watching, waiting for me to make a move. I follow Greg back to the small room, my mind spinning with possibilities, with plans that might work if I can just find the right angle. I need to act fast, but I also need to be careful. One wrong move, and it's all over. As I sit on the cot, staring at the dingy walls, I realize that the only way out of this is to take a risk, to make a move that they won't see coming. It's dangerous, it's reckless, but it's the only shot I've got. I'm going to confront Laura. I'm going to get the truth out of her, no matter what it takes. And then, I'm going to use that truth to bring these bastards down. I just hope I'm not too late. Laura's brought into the room, and the sight of her sends a rush of conflicting emotions through me. Anger, hurt, confusion, and a twisted sense of relief. She's alive. But as I look into her eyes, I see something that tears at me even more than her betrayal. Fear. She's terrified, and that only makes my job harder. I can't afford to be soft, not now. Greg stands by the door, his arms crossed, watching us like a hawk. "You've got 10 minutes, he says, his tone flat. He steps out, but I know he's right outside listening. Laura stands there, her arms wrapped around herself, looking smaller, more fragile than I remember. "What's happening, Laura? What the hell are you mixed up in?" My voice is sharp, harsher than I intended, but I need answers. She flinches at my tone, her eyes darting to the door. "I'm sorry," she whispers, barely loud enough for me to hear. "I didn't want this. I didn't have a choice." I step closer, trying to keep my emotions in check. "You didn't have a choice? What does that even mean?" "You're in this deep, Laura. I'm in this deep because of you. So start talking." Her eyes fill with tears, and for a moment, I see the woman I married, the woman I thought I knew. But then she blinks, and it's gone, replaced by someone I don't recognize. "They found out about us, about our money. They threatened me, and I panicked. I thought I could control it, that I could keep them away from you. But it got out of hand." I feel a cold knot tighten in my stomach. "So you're saying this is all about money?" "Our money." She nods, her voice trembling. "They were laundering money, using businesses like ours to clean it. They made me do it. They said if I didn't, they'd kill you, and then me. I thought I could handle it, that I could protect you." Her words hit me like a sledgehammer. "But you couldn't, could you? And now we're both caught in their web." She nods, her tears finally spilling over. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what else to do." I shake my head, trying to process everything. "Did you think you could just keep this from me forever? That I wouldn't find out?" She looks down, unable to meet my eyes. "I was trying to find a way out, to fix it before you knew. But they kept pulling me deeper, threatening you. I thought, I thought if I kept you out of it, you'd be safe. I let out a bitter laugh. Safe? Look around, Laura. We're anything but safe. She steps closer, her hands trembling as she reaches for me. I know. I know I messed up. But I never stopped loving you. I did this to protect you, even if it was the wrong way. I pull away, anger flaring up again. Protect me? By getting in bed with these criminals? By dragging me into this mess? That's not love, Laura. That's fear. And now we're both paying for it. Her face crumples, but before she can respond, Greg steps back into the room, cutting off our conversation. Time's up, he says, his voice cold. You can have your little heart-to-heart later. We've got work to do. He grabs Laura by the arm, pulling her away from me. She looks back, her eyes pleading, but there's nothing I can do. Not yet. They take her away, and I'm left alone, my mind racing. Everything she said is spinning in my head, and I can't make sense of it. She did all this to protect me, but in doing so, she's destroyed everything we had. I don't know if I can forgive her, if I even want to. But right now, that doesn't matter. What matters is surviving and then figuring out what comes next. I spend the next few hours alone, trying to piece together a plan. I've got the information I need, enough to start taking down their operation. But I'm not naive. These guys are professionals, and they won't go down without a fight. I need to be smart. Need to play this just right if I'm going to get out of here alive. Finally, Greg comes back for me. Time to finish this, he says, his tone leaving no room for argument. I follow him back to the office, my heart pounding in my chest. The laptop is waiting for me just like before. But this time, things are different. This time, I have a plan. I sit down, my fingers trembling as I start typing. On the surface, everything looks normal. I'm moving the money, covering the tracks, just like they want. But underneath, I'm setting the trap, making sure that when the time comes, I can take them all down. The room is silent except for the sound of my typing and the occasional grunt from Greg. He's watching me, but he doesn't know what I'm really doing. He doesn't see the signals I'm sending, the breadcrumbs I'm laying down. I just hope Tom is smart enough to follow them. Hours pass, the tension in the room growing thicker with every minute. I'm almost done, almost ready to make my move, when the door swings open and Laura is shoved into the room. She stumbles, her face pale, but she straightens up quickly, her eyes locking onto mine. What's she doing here? I ask, my voice tight. Greg shrugs, a smirk playing on his lips. She's here to make sure you stay motivated. We wouldn't want you getting any ideas about screwing us over, now would we? I grit my teeth, forcing myself to stay calm. I'm almost done. Just give me a few more minutes. Greg nods, but he doesn't move. He stays there, leaning against the wall, his eyes never leaving me. I know I'm running out of time, but I need to be careful. One wrong move, and it's over. Laura stands there watching me, her expression unreadable. I don't know what she's thinking, if she's scared or if she's still trying to protect me. But right now, I can't focus on that. I have to finish this, have to make sure that when the time comes, I'm ready to strike. Finally, I'm done. I lean back, my heart pounding in my chest. It's finished, I say, my voice steady. The money's clean, the trail's covered. Greg straightens up, his eyes narrowing as he steps closer. Let me see. I push the laptop toward him, my hands trembling slightly as I do. He leans over, scanning the screen, his expression unreadable. I hold my breath, waiting for his reaction. Finally, he nods, a satisfied smirk crossing his face. Good. Looks like you did your job. He turns to one of the other men, who has just entered the room. Get the others. We're wrapping this up. As the man leaves, Greg turns back to me, his eyes cold. You're done here. We'll take care of the rest. But don't think for a second that you're off the hook. We'll be watching you, making sure you don't try anything stupid. I nod, keeping my expression neutral. I understand. He grunts, clearly not convinced, but he doesn't push it. Instead, he turns to Laura. Come on. You're coming with us. She looks at me, her eyes wide with fear, but she doesn't resist. I want to say something, to do something, but I know I can't. Not yet. They start to lead her away, but just as they reach the door, she twists out of their grasp and runs back to me. She throws her arms around me, her body trembling against mine. Please, she whispers, her voice barely audible. Please don't let them take me. I freeze, torn between the need to protect her and the knowledge that any sudden move could get us both killed. Greg steps forward, his face twisted in anger. Get off him now, he barks. But before she can move, I act. My hand darts into my pocket, pulling out the small flash drive I'd hidden there earlier. I press it into her hand, my voice low and urgent. Take this, run. Don't stop until you're safe. She looks at me, her eyes wide with confusion, but there's no time to explain. Greg grabs her, yanking her away from me, but not before she slips the flash drive into her pocket. Let's go, Greg snaps, pulling her toward the door. I watch them go, my heart pounding in my chest. I just hope she understands what I'm trying to do. The door slams shut behind them, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I take a deep breath, trying to steady myself. It's all up to her now. If she can get that flash drive to Tom, if she can make it out of here alive, we might just have a chance. But there's no guarantee. And if she fails, if they catch her, I don't even want to think about it. I wait, every second stretching into an eternity. I can't move, can't do anything but hope and pray that she makes it out. But as the minutes tick by, doubt starts to creep in. Did I do the right thing? Should I have gone with her, tried to fight my way out? Or was this the only way? I don't know. All I can do is wait. Finally, after what feels like hours, the door swings open again, and Greg storms back in. His face is twisted in anger, his eyes blazing with fury. Where is it? He snarls, his voice low and dangerous. I keep my expression neutral, my heart pounding in my chest. Where's what? The flash drive, you idiot, he snaps. You think we didn't see? You think we don't know what you're trying to do? Panic flares in my chest, but I force myself to stay calm. I don't know what you're talking about. He steps closer, his hand darting out to grab me by the collar. He yanks me forward, his face inches from mine. Don't play games with me. We saw you give it to her. Now where is it? I meet his gaze, refusing to back down. I don't have it, and if you don't let me go, you'll never find it. His eyes narrow, and for a moment, I think he's going to hit me. But then he shoves me back, his face twisted in frustration. Fine, we'll find her ourselves. He storms out, slamming the door behind him, and I'm left alone once again. But this time, I'm not as confident. If they catch her, if they get their hands on that flash drive, everything I've done will be for nothing. I slump back into the chair, my mind racing. I've played my hand, and now all I can do is hope that Laura makes it out alive. If she does, if she can get that information to Tom, we might just have a chance to bring these bastards down. But if she doesn't, I don't even want to think about what happens next. The next few days are a blur of paranoia and planning. I can't stay in one place for too long, so I move constantly, switching hotels, using cash, avoiding any digital footprint. Every time I step outside, I feel eyes on me. I'm a fugitive now, both from the law and from the criminals who want me dead. But I'm not just running, I'm preparing for what comes next. Tom's voice echoes in my mind, the last conversation we had before I went off the grid. You've got to play this smart, he'd said. We can take them down, but you have to gather more evidence. You know their operation better than anyone now. You've got to be the one to bring it to light. He's right. I've spent days digging through their accounts, their shell companies, every dirty transaction they've made. But it's not enough. I need more. Something that will ensure they go down and stay down. Something that leaves no room for escape. I meet with a small group of trusted allies, people Tom connected me with. They're former law enforcement, private investigators, people who know how to fight in the shadows. We sit in a dingy, out-of-the-way diner, the kind of place no one looks twice at. They listen as I lay out everything I've found, every detail of the network that's ensnared me. We can use this, one of them says, his voice low, intense. But we need the final piece. We need to get to the top. I know, I reply, my voice steady despite the tension coiling in my chest. That's why I'm going back in. They look at me like I'm crazy, and maybe I am. But I've thought this through. I'm going to infiltrate their operation one last time, get close enough to the leader to gather the evidence we need. It's the only way. You can't do this alone, another says, shaking her head. It's too dangerous. I don't have a choice, I respond, my tone leaving no room for argument. This ends with me. I'm the one who got dragged into this, and I'm the one who's going to end it. They reluctantly agree, and we start to plan. Every detail is scrutinized, every potential pitfall considered. By the time we're done, I have a solid plan, a way to get inside and get what we need. But there's still a part of me that knows this might not end well. I might not come out of this alive, but if I don't do it, more people will get hurt. Laura might get hurt again. That thought is enough to push me forward. The next night I make my move. I slip into the warehouse district under cover of darkness, my heart pounding in my chest. The place is a maze of shipping containers and abandoned buildings, the perfect cover for illegal operations. I move quickly, sticking to the shadows, avoiding the few guards patrolling the area. I've been here before, during those weeks when I was under their control, so I know the layout. I also know the risks. My goal is simple. Get to the office on the top floor of the main building. That's where their leader operates, where all the most sensitive information is stored. If I can access that, I can download the files we need to expose them completely. I can bring them down. I slip inside the building, my movements quick and silent. The place is eerily quiet, the only sound the faint hum of machinery somewhere deep in the bowels of the warehouse. My heart races as I make my way up the stairs, every creak of the old metal making me flinch. But I keep going, driven by a mixture of fear and determination. Finally, I reach the top floor. The office is just ahead, the door slightly ajar. I pause, listening for any sign of movement, but there's nothing. Just silence. I push the door open slowly, my eyes scanning the room. It's empty, just as I hoped. I move to the desk, quickly booting up the computer. My hands tremble as I plug in the USB drive, the one I'll use to download the evidence. This is it, the moment everything hinges on. The files start to transfer, the progress bar creeping forward agonizingly slow. I glance at the door every few seconds, half expecting someone to burst in. But no one comes. Just a few more minutes, and it'll all be over. I'll have what I need to end this nightmare. Suddenly, a noise from the hallway makes me freeze. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming closer. I hold my breath, willing the transfer to finish faster, but it's no use. The door swings open, and I'm caught red-handed. Greg stands there, his eyes narrowing as he takes in the scene. "I knew it," he growls, stepping into the room. "I knew you were up to something." My heart pounds in my chest, but I force myself to stay calm. "It's over, Greg," I say, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. "I've got everything I need to bring you down." He laughs, a harsh, grating sound. "You think I didn't plan for this? You're not the first idiot to try and double-cross me. And you won't be the last." He moves toward me, his hand reaching for a gun tucked into his waistband. I know I have seconds to act, to make a decision that could mean life or death. Without thinking, I grab the nearest object, a heavy paperweight on the desk, and hurl it at him. It hits him square in the chest, knocking him off balance just long enough for me to tackle him. We hit the floor hard and the gun skitters out of his reach. I don't waste any time. I go for the gun, but Greg's on me in an instant, his hands around my throat, squeezing the life out of me. I struggle, gasping for breath, my vision starting to blur. But I can't let it end like this. I summon every ounce of strength I have left and manage to knee him in the groin. He lets out a pained grunt, his grip loosening just enough for me to break free. I scramble for the gun, my fingers closing around the grip just as Greg lunges at me again. I don't think, I just act. The gun goes off, the sound deafening in the small room. Greg stops, his eyes wide with shock as he looks down at the blood spreading across his chest. He collapses, dead before he hits the ground. I'm left standing there, the gun still in my hand, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I've just killed a man. But there's no time to process it, no time for guilt or regret. The files have finished transferring. I grab the USB drive, my heart pounding in my ears, and make a run for it. I don't stop until I'm out of the building, out of the warehouse district, and into the safety of the city streets. Only then do I allow myself to breathe, to let the reality of what just happened sink in. I've done it. I've got the evidence. But at what cost? I make my way to the rendezvous point, where Tom and the others are waiting. They take one look at me, at the blood on my clothes, and they know. But they don't say anything. They just take the USB drive and get to work. The next few days are a whirlwind. The files contain everything we need. Proof of the entire operation, from the money laundering to the human trafficking. It's enough to bring them all down, to end this once and for all. But it's not over for me. Not by a long shot. The authorities want answers. They want to know how I got involved, what role I played. I spend hours in interrogation rooms, going over every detail, every decision I made. They're not gentle, but I don't care. I'm done hiding. I tell them everything. In the end, they offer me a deal. They'll let me walk, let me disappear if I testify against the others. It's not a great deal, but it's the best I'm going to get. So I take it. The trial is brutal. I'm on the stand for hours, reliving every moment of the past few months, every decision that led me here. The defense tears into me, trying to paint me as a willing participant, but I hold my ground. The evidence is solid, and in the end, it's enough. They're convicted, every last one of them. But it doesn't feel like a victory. I've lost too much to call this a win. My marriage is over. Laura and I don't speak. She's trying to rebuild her life, and I don't blame her for wanting to do it without me. I'm a reminder of everything that went wrong, of the man I've become. I take the deal, and I disappear. I leave behind everything, my name, my career, my old life. I move to a small town, the kind of place where no one asks questions. I start over, doing what I can to help others who've been caught in the same web I was. It's not much, but it's something. The scars from that time run deep. They're a part of me now, a reminder of everything I've been through, everything I've lost. But they're also a reminder that I survived, that I fought back and won, even if the victory is hollow. In the quiet of my new life, I find a measure of peace. It's not the life I wanted, but it's the one I've got, and I'm going to make the best of it. I spend my days working with people who need help, people who've been through their own hells and come out the other side. In helping them, I find a little bit of healing for myself. But there are still nights when I lie awake, haunted by the memories, by the what-ifs. What if I'd seen the signs sooner? What if I'd made different choices? What if I'd walked away when I had the chance? Those questions will always be with me, unanswered, a part of the person I am now. I keep moving forward, one day at a time. I'm not the man I was before, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe this new life, this new purpose, is what I needed all along. But even now, there's a part of me that can't let go. A part of me that still feels the pull of that old life, of the thrill of the fight. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. I'm not done yet. There are more battles to fight, more people who need help. And as long as there's breath in my body, I'm going to keep fighting. The fight isn't over. It's just beginning. I wait in the shadows, my back pressed against the cold, damp wall of the abandoned warehouse. My breath is shallow, my senses heightened. Every creak, every distant sound sends a jolt of adrenaline through my veins. This is it, the final confrontation. Everything I've done, every risk I've taken, has led to this moment. It's time to end this, once and for all. I hear footsteps approaching, heavy and deliberate. I can tell by the rhythm that it's him, Vincent Romano, the leader of the criminal network that has torn my life apart. The man who's responsible for everything that's happened to me, to Laura. My heart pounds in my chest, but I force myself to stay calm, to think clearly. Romano steps into the room flanked by two of his thugs. His presence fills the space, a dark aura that sends a chill down my spine. He's a tall man, broad-shouldered, with a face carved from stone. His eyes are cold, calculating, and when they lock onto mine, I feel a surge of hatred so intense it almost overwhelms me. "Well, well," he says, his voice a low rumble. "The man of the hour. You've caused me quite a bit of trouble, you know that." I don't respond immediately, keeping my face neutral, my body tense and ready. "You're the one who started this," I say finally, my voice steady. "I'm just here to finish it." He chuckles, the sound echoing off the walls. Bold words. "But you're alone and I've got the upper hand. What makes you think you're going to walk out of here alive?" I glance around the room, my mind racing. I know the layout, know where my allies are positioned. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about everyone who's been caught in Romano's web, everyone who's suffered because of him. I'm not leaving until he's finished, one way or another. "I've got everything I need to take you down," I say, keeping my voice calm, controlled. "Evidence, witnesses, people who are ready to testify. It's over, Romano. You're done." His eyes narrow and I see a flicker of doubt cross his face, but it's quickly replaced by a sneer. "You think you can scare me with threats? I've been in this game a long time and I've seen men like you come and go. You're nothing." I tighten my grip on the gun hidden in my jacket, but I don't draw it yet. Not until I'm sure. "You're right, I'm not a criminal, not like you, but that's what makes me dangerous." "I don't have anything to lose." He raises an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "So what's your plan? You think you can shoot your way out of here? Even if you do, you'll never stop looking over your shoulder. You'll never be free." I take a deep breath, steadying myself. "I'm not here to shoot my way out. I'm here to make sure you never hurt anyone else again." Before he can respond, I press a button on the small remote in my pocket. A series of explosions rock the building, shaking the walls, sending debris raining down from the ceiling. It's the signal. My allies are moving in, cutting off all exits, ensuring that Romano has nowhere to run. Romano's eyes widen in surprise, but he quickly recovers, pulling out his own gun and aiming it at me. "You think you're smart, don't you? But you've just signed your own death warrant." I draw my gun, leveling it at him. "Maybe, but at least I'll take you with me." The room erupts into chaos as shots are fired, bullets ricocheting off the walls. I dive behind a stack of crates, my heart pounding in my chest. Romano's men are well trained, but so are mine, and I can hear the sounds of fighting all around us. It's all happening so fast, but I stay focused, my mind clear. I know what I have to do. I move quickly, keeping low as I make my way around the room, taking out Romano's men one by one. It's not easy. These guys are tough and they know how to fight. But I've got the advantage. I know the layout, I know where to strike, and I'm fueled by a determination that's stronger than any fear. Finally, it's just me and Romano. He's backed into a corner, blood dripping from a wound in his shoulder, but he's still dangerous. His eyes are wild now, desperate. He knows he's lost, but he's not going down without a fight. "This is your last chance," I say, keeping my gun trained on him. "Surrender, and maybe, just maybe, you'll live to see a trial." He laughs, a bitter, broken sound. "You really think I'm going to let you take me in? You're more naive than I thought." He lunges at me and I pull the trigger without hesitation. The shot echoes through the room, and Romano collapses to the floor, the life draining out of him. I watch as he breathes his last, a strange sense of finality settling over me. It's over. He's gone. But as I stand there looking down at his lifeless body, I don't feel the satisfaction I thought I would. There's no triumph, no relief, just emptiness. This man destroyed my life, but killing him doesn't bring it back. It doesn't undo the damage he caused. I holster my gun, turning away from the scene. The warehouse is quiet now, the fighting over, my allies victorious. They come to me, their expressions a mix of relief and concern, but I don't have the energy to talk, to explain. I just want to get out of here, to leave this place and never look back. As we make our way outside, I'm hit by a wave of exhaustion, both physical and emotional. I've been running on adrenaline for so long, But now that it's over, I feel like I could collapse. But I can't. Not yet. There's still one more thing I have to do. I find Laura waiting in a car parked a safe distance from the warehouse. She gets out when she sees me, her face pale, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. I walk up to her, and for a moment, we just stand there looking at each other. "It's done," I say finally, my voice flat. "Romano's dead." She nods, swallowing hard. "I thought I'd feel, I don't know, something more, but I just feel empty." I nod, understanding exactly what she means. Me too. There's a long silence, and I can see the questions in her eyes, the things she wants to say, but doesn't know how. I don't know how either. This is a moment we've both been dreading, but it's inevitable. We can't avoid it anymore. "What happens now?" she asks quietly, her voice trembling. I take a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision I've already made. "We go our separate ways. You start over, find a way to build a new life. I've got to do the same." She blinks, tears welling up in her eyes. "So that's it? After everything we've been through?" I nod, my heart heavy. It has to be. There's too much between us. Too much damage. We can't go back to the way things were. She looks down, a tear sliding down her cheek. "I know. I didn't want it to end like this." "Neither did I say softly, reaching out to brush the tear away. "But we can't change what's happened. All we can do is move forward." She looks up at me, her eyes searching mine. Do you think we'll ever see each other again?" I hesitate, then shake my head. "I don't know. Maybe someday. But right now we both need time. Space to heal." She nods, biting her lip to keep from crying. "I'll miss you." "I'll miss you too," I say, my voice thick with emotion. "But this is the right thing. For both of us." We stand there for a moment longer. Then she steps back, wiping her eyes. "Goodbye," she whispers. "Goodbye, Laura," I reply, my heart aching as I watch her get back into the car. I stand there watching as she drives away, feeling a strange mix of relief and sorrow. This is the end of one chapter, but the beginning of another. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I'm free, free from the chains that have held me for so long. As I walk away from the warehouse, I take one last look at the place where everything changed. It's just a building, just a pile of bricks and steel. But to me, it represents something much bigger. It's the place where I lost everything, but also the place where I found the strength to fight back. I take a deep breath, feeling the cool night air fill my lungs. The fight is over, but the journey isn't. I have a long road ahead, filled with uncertainty, but also with hope. I'm not the man I was when this all started, but I think that's a good thing. I've been broken, but I've also been rebuilt, stronger than before. And as I walk into the darkness, I know I sit alone in a small, nondescript apartment, the hum of the city outside barely reaching me through the thick walls. The room is sparse, just a bed, a table, and a chair. I keep it that way on purpose. No distractions, just me and my thoughts. The battle is over, but the war inside me rages on. Everything is different now. I'm not the man I was when this all started. I've lost more than I ever imagined. My marriage, my career, my sense of who I was. But I've gained something too. Clarity, purpose. A dark part of me had always craved the adrenaline, the rush of danger. But now I understand that it's not the thrill that drives me. It's the need to right wrongs, to take down the monsters that prey on the innocent. The trial is behind me, but its echoes still haunt my nights. I testified, laid everything bare for the world to see. The faces of the jurors, the cold eyes of the judge, they're etched into my memory. The weight of their judgment hangs over me, even now. I was the key witness, the one who brought down a criminal empire. But that doesn't make me a hero. I did what I had to do, and the cost was high. Laura, I still see her in my dreams. The look on her face when we said goodbye, the way her voice trembled when she asked if we'd ever see each other again. I didn't have the heart to tell her the truth then, But I knew. We're done. There's no going back. No rebuilding from the ashes. We've both changed too much, been through too much. It's better this way, for both of us. But that doesn't make it hurt any less. I've started a new life, far from the city where it all went down. I work in the shadows, helping people who find themselves in the same kind of hell I was in. It's not much, but it's something. It gives me a reason to keep going, a way to channel the rage and guilt that still simmer beneath the surface. I'm no longer running from my past. I'm using it to fuel my future. The people I help, they don't know who I am. They don't need to. I've become a ghost, moving from place to place, leaving no trace behind. It's safer that way, for them and for me. I don't stay anywhere too long. Don't let myself get attached. Attachments are weaknesses, and I can't afford any more weaknesses. Not now. But there's a part of me that can't let go, that keeps looking over my shoulder, waiting for the past to catch up with me. I know there are still people out there who want me dead, who would love nothing more than to see me buried 6 feet under. But I'm ready for them. I've been through too much to go down without a fight. I've learned to live with the scars, both the ones you can see and the ones you can't. They remind me of what I've lost, but also of what I've gained. Strength, resilience, the ability to face the darkness and not flinch. I'm not the man I once was, but maybe that's a good thing. The man I was wouldn't have survived this. The future is uncertain, but I've made peace with that. I don't need to know what comes next. I just need to be ready for it. And I am. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm in control. Like I'm the one calling the shots, not the other way around. I've heard whispers of another criminal ring, one even more dangerous than Romano's. The thought of going after them, of tearing down another empire, sends a thrill through me. This is what I do now. This is who I am. A hunter, a destroyer of evil. I don't do it for revenge or for glory. I do it because it's the only way I know how to live. The fight isn't over. It never will be. As long as there are people out there who think they can get away with murder, with exploitation, with ruining lives, I'll be there. In the shadows, waiting, watching, ready to strike. I stand up, crossing the small room to the window. The city stretches out below me, a maze of lights and noise, full of people who have no idea what lurks in the dark corners of their world. But I do, and I'm not afraid to face it. I pull on my jacket, feeling the familiar weight of the gun in its holster. It's time to move again. Time to find the next target, the next mission. I don't know where it will lead me or what I'll find when I get there. But I do know one thing. I'm ready for whatever comes next. As I step out into the night, a sense of calm washes over me. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. I've found my purpose, my path. It's not the one I expected, but it's mine. And that's enough. The world is a dark place, but I've learned how to navigate it. I've learned how to survive. And as long as I'm breathing, I'll keep fighting, because that's who I am now. A fighter, a survivor, a man with nothing left to lose and everything to gain. The fight isn't over, not by a long shot, but neither am I. I'm just getting started.